Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Beyond the Bites, a show that deals with the trending issues affecting the region. Now, it's hard to imagine someone hurting a child intentionally or suppressing its rights, but the truth is that children have increasingly been on the receiving end, with number of cases of child abuse being reported from across the country and even from the Northeast. So what is the reason for this ill? What is the reason for this menace? And is there any solution, possible solution to curb this menace in the near future? To discuss this, we have a distinguished group of panelists with us today. I have with me today Mr. Miguel Das Cuya, who is a child rights activist and founder of UTSA. Welcome, sir, to the show. Thank you very much for sparing time for us. I also have with me Dr. Sunita Chankakoti, who is the chairperson of Assam State Commission for Protection of Child Rights. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. I also have Mrs. Loya Agarwala, who is a student counselor and an author who has written extensively about child abuse and how to prevent them. And I also have Mrs. Reena De, who is a senior teacher from Don Bosco School, Guwahati, who has been dealing with kids and knows a lot about their behavior. A very warm welcome to all of you for making time for this episode of Beyond the Bites. I would like to start with you, Miguel. Abuse of children increasing. Is this a fact? Is this a reality today?
Of course, you see, Navarun, I would like to quote from the NCRB statistics. If you see, in Assam itself, in 2016, we had a huge number of cases of kidnapping and abduction, cases under Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, procuration of minor girls, in child labor, immoral trafficking, and the amount of missing children are growing each year. Without going into the statistics, it is a reality that Assam, as well as the northeastern region, has seen a rise in crimes against children and cases of child abuse.
Dr. Chankakoti, the fact that we are having this discussion in this forum today, would you like to second Mr. Cuya on that child abuse is indeed increasing in the region and across the country, of course?
Yes, child abuse has been increasing, and rather I would like to add more whatever Miguel has told. The exact number of child abuse is still has not come into focus. There are much more numbers of the cases of child abuse in Assam as well as the Northeast. And Assam, till now, Assam has experienced the highest number of child abuse, especially child sexual abuse, and unfortunately, most of these cases have not been registered. So, exact number of whatever data we are having, but I think that the exact number is much more, because most of the cases are not reported or not registered.
Situation very alarming indeed. Mrs. Loya Agarwala, your first thoughts on this?
Well, I'm so glad that you're having a program like this, because it's definitely an issue we need to touch upon. We need to make sure that, our society is very focused and sensitized about the rising rates of child abuse. Yes.
Ma'am, as a teacher, do you see the abuse of children rising by the day?
Yes, I have seen this. Every day we read in the newspapers about different cases of child abuse, and we are quite alarmed about it.
Miguel, I'll just come back to you. Why are children more vulnerable of late for the past few years these days, not only across the region but in Assam? What has happened? What has changed over the years? Why children all of a sudden now?
See, Navran, it's not all of a sudden. It's been happening for years, thankfully, because of maybe the civil society discourse around child protection or child rights has come into the front line, and that's why we are seeing numbers coming up. And also reporting is high. For example, Assam has a very robust, a very strong child protection system. So you see a lot of cases coming into the focus. Now, one of the primary reasons is the power structure. Now, if you look at the power structure, children are at the bottom of it. Now, why do you ask me so, right? So it's because of the age one. And the stage of cognitive development where they are, and because of the tender age, they're low at the power. They're the last mile, in the power pyramid. Now, that's why you see they're easy to be oppressed, exploited, because children do not understand, do not perceive abuse. And that's one of the primary reasons why you see a lot of children being abused. So it's an intersectionality, basically. So you are a boy, you are young, and thereby you are abused. Or you are a child, and you are a girl child, and so you are abused. And that's precisely why we see a lot of cases of exploitation of children That is one of the primary reasons why I say that we see a lot of abuse in children. Maybe through later half I'll share much more reasons after hearing, say, other panelists speak.
Mrs. Agarwala, where do you think it begins, the abuse? So where and how it begins? Since you are somebody who has written extensively on child abuse and its prevention.
Again, it's the vulnerability of children because they don't know how to recognize it. Children, when they're very young, and again, we've got the age group between 6 and 12. That's the majority of sexual abuse cases are happening in that age group for the same reasons that Miguel has just stated. It's imperative that we are able to make our children aware and recognize what exactly is happening to them and the fact that they have a right over their bodies. The problem is that children don't speak openly to their parents and vice versa. Parents aren't addressing these issues from a very young age. So what happens is the child grows up thinking that certain issues regarding their body are taboo. And this is absolutely difficult because when it comes to real issues regarding sexual abuse, they keep quiet and they don't speak out. That is the problem.
Now, Dr. Chankakoti, in the Northeast, we have basically had traditional societies. So how is it that cases of child abuse, cases of sexual offenses towards children is so high, prevalent in traditional societies?
Yeah.
Is it that it always existed? It's only now that it's coming to fore? Could that be one reason? We have been ignorant all this time and it's only now that it's coming to fore.
No, it's not that. Although it's traditional in the northeastern states, the traditional society exists, but still, as we have, Miguel has already mentioned, the child sexual abuse, especially with the girls, has been happening for years. And as a lawyer has mentioned, the girls, especially the girls, they never used to speak out, and it was the parents who never thought of. So this has been happening even in the traditional society. Also, child sexual abuse was happening, but maybe comparatively earlier days the number was low, but now the number has been increasing because of the various factors, because of the trend, because of the role of media. I mean, media role of what to say, technology, then social media especially. So there are many factors for which, in spite of having a traditional society, child sexual abuse has been increasing. So it's not that traditional society, in the traditional society, child sexual abuse will not be there. But it has been happening, and now it has been the number has been now more focused, and they are, because of the factors of many outside factors like many children. Then the child trafficking is another issue. Then many children aspire to go out of their own places. That is another issue. So there are hundreds of issues for which
lot of factors,
yes,
of course.
Yes.
Mrs. Reena, you've been somebody who's been teaching for a long time now. You have seen children grow into young men and women, and you are still teaching these children. Have you observed any change in behaviors over the years? Because if we remember, say 10 or 15 years back, a decade or a half ago, we didn't have so many cases of, say, sexual abuse or otherwise of children in schools that is coming to fore from several parts of the country now. That was unheard of.
What I feel that maybe the media was not so focused in this area earlier. Now we have the attention towards children. We are coming forward, and the children also, because the enlightenment of the parents and teachers, they are able to bring out these confides from the children.
So just to interrupt you here, are you trying to say that these cases did happen earlier? It's only now that it is getting attention.
Yes.
Can you say that from your personal experience?
Yes, I have seen and heard also of many cases like that where abuse was going on, but even the child was not aware that he was being abused. He did not realize that that was abuse. Maybe a relative, maybe a sibling, older sibling, but he thought in a very simple way, maybe, that, okay, that is all right. It is only love being expressed in a different way.
And that is
So,
the irony.
yeah,
It's
that's
often
right.
the
They never
perpetrator
realized
is often either a relative or even a parent or somebody from the family with whom the child is very close to, and that's why they get
And
confused.
the most trusted persons.
Yes.
Yes.
The most
That's the
trusted
majority.
persons in the family.
Family.
Even we have got cases, child has been sexually abused by her own biological father.
Yes.
And that has been happening, that was happening for years. And here I would like to mention one thing, that there are very few cases in case of child abuse, the accused is getting punishment.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. We'll
Yeah.
come to a lot of that later. So, Mrs. Day here saying, Miguel, such cases of child abuse had always been happening. It's just that now it's coming to fore. Having said that, we would you agree that there's a spurt? There's been a spurt. Say a decade and a half ago, the incidence of the cases has not been so high. And we can say that from our personal experiences. We have been students, you have been students. Among our peers, we have hardly ever heard any such kind of incident coming to fore during our school days, if we go back to that. So would you believe there's a spurt in these cases, and what are the social reasons, issues for this spurt?
See, I won't say it's a spurt because I have been myself sexually abused as a child. I have friends who have been abused, but we never perceived abuse. So, but now, as I said, there has been a lot of discussion in the civil society, on social media, where people are talking about these experiences, and especially in 2012, we had this remarkable enactment by the Parliament. We had the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, which got child sexual abuse to the forefront, and people are talking about this. People are understanding abuse. When we are young, as both Reena ma'am and Loyaba just mentioned, we did not perceive abuse. So maybe a touch on your backside or a forceful kiss was perceived as love that time. But much later, when we read the POCSO Act, when we read we read about child sexual abuse, the nuances of child sexual abuse, we realize, oh my God, I was abused as a child too. So that's where we take the responsibility of informing our children, which is so important, to let them know that what is right and what is wrong. And secondly, the adults should have the discretion of where to draw the line when it comes to touching a child in any way. So it has been there always. Now, because of an enactment in place, now because of people being more informed through, like Ma'am Sunita Chankakote already mentioned, that there has been technology, there's social media, so people are talking. Your role, in fact, today the show itself will inform so many people about child sexual abuse, and there'll be so many people coming up with their own narratives, which in the past they might not have realized, but now they know they were abused as well. So
Well, I'm glad, Miguel, you had the courage to share this on this platform. Mrs. Agarwala, awareness is a major problem.
Yes.
How many of the kids, even now, today, with all we are talking about, more awareness and social media and everything, even today, awareness is something kids do not know when they're abused. That is a major factor. What is the way ahead?
First of all, I'd just like to tell Miguel, he's setting a precedent by being able to, talk about this, his personal experience on a platform like this. I hope it will send a message to many other children to speak out about this. The awareness starts very early in a child's life. It's the parents that have to make sure that the child understands 4 very important things. And if you just give me the time to just go through these 4 things. The first is every child must understand that their body is their own. So every part of their body, be it their private parts, be it their hair, right down to their little toe, that is theirs, and they have full right over their bodies. That's the first thing. The second is a good touch and a bad touch. They must understand the difference between a good touch, again, as Miguel had just touched upon. The third thing is a good secret and a bad secret. This is absolutely essential because a good secret feels good. A bad secret is something very it doesn't feel very good. It feels very ugly and sordid. And the fourth is know, go, and tell. This is a very important thing. When a child is in a situation where he or she is under the influence of a perpetrator and he recognizes that this to be a sexual abuse act, the child has the courage to recognize it and speak out, says no, can leave the situation, go, and must tell an adult. These are the things that we are trying to sensitize parents into building up more awareness in our society and schools.
Mrs. Reena, the schools in our country, in the region, in Assam, everywhere in the nation, have long chose to ignore these issues. Even now, with a number of cases of sexual abuse and all forms of abuse coming to fore, the schools choose choose rather to look the other side?
Yes, because it is a very difficult topic for the parents to handle, for the teachers to handle, or the school authorities to handle. It involves the media, involves many other things, the authorities. So it is usually ignored, but not now. Now things have changed. Earlier it was so, but now things have changed. Even the school is very conscious about these things, and there are rules formulated. I think in most of the schools in the cities, at least, it is already formulated where the teachers are instructed to be very vigilant. We have to be like prevent. I mean, the first thing we have to think is to prevent a crime by our presence. We can prevent a crime by our presence. So children are not left alone. And I think this, even parents should see to this. The children should not be left alone without a responsible adult. So parents and teachers, they play their role. And so now we do not shy away from taking up such issues.
It is one thing, Miguel, to set up rules. Do you think schools are actually following this? Schools are actually serious in ensuring, with their logistics, of course, that child abuse doesn't happen, at least on the school campus?
No, interestingly, as you say that, because you know what happens in the child protection sector where I work, even Sunita Bao would agree that, say, for example, staff of childcare institutions, orphanages, observation homes are always trained in children's rights and child protection because they know how to deal with children. Now, what happens with schools? Interestingly, children spend most of the time of their life in schools. However, if you ask a teacher, do you know what children's rights mean? They would not have any idea because teachers follow the traditional way of dealing with children, which is children, culturally in our society, we see children are often treated as what? Extensions of household, properties of adults because of the dependency factor. And so whatever an adult says, the children would do, But after 1989, when the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child was adopted by the UN General Assembly, which meant that children were no longer properties of adults. They are entities having their own set of rights. And adults need to deal with children in a way to ensure that all their rights, as mentioned in the convention, are fulfilled and not the other way around. So I think this is very important, as you say, that teachers need to be trained in children's rights, children's right to protection, children's right to development, children's right to survival. And since the training is not there, thereby you would see a lot of cases of corporal punishment in schools, which is absolutely against a child's right to protection from violence. So I think schools in India, in South Asia, we should move from the traditional way of looking as children as our properties because of their age and dependency factor, and coming to looking at them as entities having their own rights to be defended by not only the teachers, but
well, I'm sure you would like to counter that, but before that, we'll take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Lots more coming on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond the Bites. We're discussing child abuse, the causes for its rise, and what are the solutions going ahead. Before the break, we had Miguel pointing out that teachers are not doing enough to ensure protection of children on campus. Reena, they would like to counter that here.
Actually, I'm not going to counter it. I wholeheartedly agree with what Miguel has said. And I feel really the teachers should, and the authorities of the school should have be educated on the child's rights and what it involves. And only then they can prevent such crimes. Otherwise, it would not be possible.
So is a teacher here agreeing that not enough regulation norms, protection norms are there in our campuses right now? Isn't that alarming, Dr. Chankakoti?
Yeah. Yes, it's alarming, but I think we have to knock at the beginning, at the starting point. The teachers, before getting appointment in the schools, the teachers have to be trained. Like, as we know, the teacher there is a teachers training program. So in the curriculum of teachers training, the POCSO, Specialist POCSO Act, and to deal with the children has to be technically trained. The teachers have to be technically trained enough. so that they can deal with their children. And we always we use a word that whenever there are some cases, we always talk about counselors. So there is no counselor in the school. There should be a counselor in the school. Why a particular counselor? Each and every child has to each and every teacher has to be counselor. The teacher has to be a counselor in such a way so that there is a direct communication between the child and the teacher. So I think that all the teachers, before getting appointment in the schools, they have to be trained on POCSO, and the teachers have to be trained to behave, I mean, in a child-friendly way with their children, because the students, we know many students are afraid of their teachers, and these type of cases from our commission we are getting every day. The students, there is a big gap between the teachers and the students.
Lack of communication
yes,
between
lack
teachers
of communication.
and students.
Yes.
Yes,
Can I add
Miguel.
this?
Yeah.
Ma'am is saying the word afraid. It's very interesting why in our culture a child should be afraid of the teacher. See, what happens is, I mean, it may sound crude, but we have this entire culture of deifying someone who is above the power structure, be it parents, be it teachers, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva, Maheshwara, right? Now, if the teacher is not like Vishnu or like Brahma or like Maheshwara, and instead he is an evil, but a child still perceives him as the god. So when a god touches you inappropriately, who will question the god?
So,
It's a very
so is the
interesting.
fear passing away smoothly as respect?
Yes, because you see, you're a god, and you are beyond question, right? So of course we don't see Vishnus and Brahmas and Maheshwaras in all the teachers. Of course there are many teachers who are outstanding, like Reena ma'am was my teacher. She never even raised a finger at me, but I mean, she was
Thank
such
you,
an
Miguel.
outstanding teacher. And I think we always remember such teachers in our lives, but there were others who would kick us and who would hit us, and we'd always remember them as not good teachers. You know, they didn't make the change in our lives, but teachers like Reena ma'am possibly made that impact in our lives. So what happens is we need to come out of that deification of someone who's above the power structure. So no, teacher, respect, yes, absolutely, but teacher is not God. God is there for us, right? So God is there, we pray to our gods, and who has been an immense source of support in our lives. But when we deify, it becomes, because I had a particular case where a child told me that my teacher is like my God, and how can a God do a mistake? And that is the problem.
Yeah, I would also like to add that when there is a difference between the teacher and the students, when the teacher gives punishment to the students, or the teacher humiliates the child, the student, there is every opportunity for the student to take the wrong way, to go to the wrong path, and by becoming frustrated, the students or the children, they take all those they start taking up all the bad things. They start doing the crimes in the society. True. That's very important. So we have to take this, to look into this very seriously. And in the school, as Miguel has mentioned, the students a child is spending most of his time in the school. So when he gets humiliated in the school, when he gets misbehavior from his teacher, or maybe the teacher instigates his other friends to bully or misbehave the child, so he out of frustration he commits crime.
Yes.
That is very important.
Basically, it's time for the teacher to be a mentor and a friend. On a lighter note, spare the cane, spoil the child is not always right, as I can see in you, Miguel. But jokes apart, coming to you, Mrs. Agrawala, it's all boiling down to that one point, be it for teachers, be it for students, be it for kids, lack of awareness.
Right. And also parents, whether it's teachers or parents, there has to be mass awareness. We have to change our culture completely. The aspect of positive parenting must be the one that we follow now, because our children are not the same children that we were like when we were one generation ago. Children nowadays are so different, their thinking is different. So parenting, we shouldn't hit our children. I've got two children, my son and my daughter. Neither of them have ever had a slap from me. My son's 25 and he's never been hit by me. We don't have that kind of a culture at home where we have aggression or violence. So, they've grown up balanced. So it is possible to bring up children without violence, without making them fearful. And the ability to speak up and the assertiveness quality and confidence, these are the things that we must stress on. Because, at the end of the day, perpetrators don't go around with a label on their forehead saying that I am a molester.
Absolutely.
It's up to us to empower our children. That is the only way we can do it. There's
To
no
stand
other
up,
way.
To stand up for their rights.
Yes.
Yes.
Miguel, and of course, I would like Dr. Chankakuti also to comment on this. Whose responsibility is it primarily to create that awareness?
See, now if you look at, Madam, would you like to answer first? So if you look at the entire child rights discourse, okay, when it's become a rights-based discourse. So it's a child's right. So when you talk about the concept of a right, the primary mandate lies with the state, because when an international law is passed, a human rights law like the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and when a country ratifies to that. India ratified to the convention in 1992. Basically, through ratification, India has committed that it will do all in its resources, in its power, in its strength, to ensure that the rights of all the children in the country are fulfilled. So the primary responsibility is of the state. Second, okay, of course, it's not only to blame the state or get the state's role into your households, but yeah, with the leadership of the state, it should come down to the family, to the community, and to the society as well. And each one of us here are responsible to protecting the rights of children. And so we should all come together and raise this awareness about children's right, and especially their right to protection.
Dr. Chankakuti, can we pretend the state will take care of everything, that the state will fix everything? Is it possible logistically, practically in a country that we live in?
It's not possible. See, there is a National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. It's a independent body, and in every state there is a state commission for protection of child rights at par NCPCR, National Commission. So this state commission for protection of child rights, it is a monitoring agency. So every case of violation of child right will be monitored by this commission. But apart from this commission, each and every person in the society has to
But
play
given the number of
different
cases-
different role.
Yeah.
Like family is first of all, family has the
Yes.
role, the parents have the role, then the school has a role, society has a role, and another role is the system of judiciary. Because as I have already mentioned, there are many cases where the perpetrator, where the accused just escape because of lack of evidence. As I already mentioned, a child was raped by her own biological father, but because of the evidence, because of the prolonged system of judiciary, the accused he could escape. So it is the role of judiciary is equally important. So each and every person of our society has
don't
got.
you think commissions like yours are overburdened with the growing number of cases? Is it practically possible for you to monitor all those cases, to follow up? It's one thing, don't you think so?
Yeah, it's true, but we have to. Like so far,
But are
my
you being able to? Are
responsibility
you
is
being able to? That's a bigger question.
till now we have been trying. So far my responsibility is concerned, any case of child right violation, whether I get the information through printing media or through electronic media or even through social media, we intervene immediately. So we are trying, we have to be very proactive, and as the number of cases has been increasing, but we have to also work very proactively. Then only I think we will be able to give justice to the children.
Yeah, interestingly, when Madam has said so, like you're talking about being overburdened. So we have, under the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act of 2015, we have different bodies responsible, having different responsibilities in the district level. So for example, at the Thana level, we have a child welfare police officer. At the district level, we have a child welfare committee. Then we have the district child protection unit.
State Child Protection Society.
Then the State Child Protection Society, and then the Assam State Commission for the Protection of Child Rights. So you see, there are different actually offices having different set
At
of
different
responsibilities
levels.
at different
At
levels.
different
So
levels.
so what happens? I would be happy if it goes to the Gram Panchayat level as well.
Yes.
So
In the district level, there is a state child protection unit as well as child welfare committee, along with the juvenile justice committee.
But Miguel and also Mrs. Agarwala, do you see these committees willing to do their work the way they should? And you can be honest about it.
yes, see, there are always exceptions. Now, if you look at there are commissions that are very active. Now, it depends on the leadership. I mean, depends on the kind of people in those committees or in the offices. For example, Kamrup Metropolitan would have a very active district child protection office. Somewhere in Karbi Anglong might not have. You know, of course, the geopolitics plays a huge role in this as well. But slowly in Assam, if you compare with the other northeastern states, I think Assam is much better because at least we have all the institutions in place. We have all the people appointed in place. We have very effective state commission for the protection of child rights, and of course above that we are blessed with the units of office. And so what happens is, so Assam, you see, the child protection system is very robust in place.
But despite
and
all that,
but
despite all that,
I am also
yes.
very happy to say that the CWCs earlier, as I have been working in the area for quite a longer period, so I have noticed that earlier the some districts, remote districts, where the CWCs were not too active now, but now I have seen that most of the CWCs, I mean child welfare committees, have become active, and the district child protection unit has also become active, and that is perhaps because of the role of people and because of the role of media. Media has become has played a very active role in case of any violation, child abuse
challenge-
cases.
yeah.
But
But
the
despite-
challenge is,
yeah.
I mean, being very honest, is that challenge is that a lot of these child welfare committees and district child protection units are under-resourced. So basically what happens, we have a lot of funds coming from the center, but the process is so complex that, you know, from the center, because the fundings are under the integrated child protection scheme, from it, the state will place the request to the central government. The central government will release the money. Then it will go to all the institutions across, Assam. So what happens is the process is too tedious, and I see actually child welfare committees being disgruntled about, say, not being paid for so many months. You know, district child protection offices will actually, who take building spaces on hire, will not be able to pay the landlord for months. Now, these are challenges. I think if we have the money disbursement process, more simplified, then I think all these people who are working, because they're adequately trained, would actually be more motivated to work better. They're already working, but if you can only imagine if they get their fundings on time, if they get their resources on time,
That
they would pay.
motivation is
But,
required.
but,
Motivation
but,
is
but
required.
isn't it because of these limitations that the role of NGOs like yours, student counselors like you, teachers, everything comes in, Mrs. Agarwala?
Absolutely, but rather than rely on what you're talking about, I feel that we need to take it back down to grassroots level. And as a counsellor, it's my duty to kind of spread the awareness of prevention rather than deal with the crime after it's been committed. So in my role, it would be working more with the personal one-to-one child and talking about parents and going back to those grassroots levels and making sure that parents don't take this entire concept in a very, very serious light, even though it is very serious. I don't want to undermine it. But, at the end of the day, the world is a good place. And these incidents are happening, but they're not happening on such a huge scale at the same time. But what we need to do is reduce the occurrence of these crimes. And the way I feel we can do that is for parents to open up and open communication pathways with their children from a very, very young age. And if that can start early, we may even be able to prevent these crimes where, the burden on institutions like yourselves will be far less. That's what I believe.
Now, when we talk of child abuse, mostly you're talking about sexual abuse of children, physical hurt being done to a child. But as a society, have we constantly chose to ignore the plight of thousands and lakhs of children on the streets who are out there selling petty goods, doing petty jobs, or it could be a maid who misses the day's work and sends her kid instead? And are we silent to that? As a society, are we guilty of that?
No. Yes, from our commission now, we have started going to the slums, we have started going to the railway stations, and we have found hundreds of children, those who were sexually abused and they are substance abused. So now we have started working on these children. And another thing I would like to mention, that there are child beggars. You must have noticed in the market, especially in the fancy bazaar in Guwahati city. So these beggars, small, very small kids, 3 years, 4 years old kids, they are made to sleep on the footpath, and there is a big racket behind it. So they are made to sleep on the footpath by giving them some drugs, and our money is earned through them. So now we have intervened in child beggary, and we have already written to the district administration, police administration, and I'm very happy to say that if you now go through Fancy Bazaar area, you will not find such child beggars. So that is the effort we have made. And also now we have started working with National AIDS Control Society. So we are now in the process of doing some camps. If these children on the street are those who are sexually abused or substance abused, some HIV test should be done immediately, because we don't know how many children are carrying HIV AIDS germs.
No, interestingly here, what I would like to add is that I've been working with slum areas for the last 6 years. Children, especially slum children, if you look at Guwahati city, if you again look at the development narrative of the city, like it is one of those smart cities, but if you look at the development plan, it's all about parks and it's about shopping malls and towers, but where is that narrative of those, how many
And
children?
that's true for the whole country.
Whole
if you
country.
see. Yes.
If you look at the document, in fact, I've spoken to senior officials from the government who suddenly thought, oh my God, yeah, where are those children? Because if you look at a Guwahati Municipal Corporation report in 2015, Guwahati city itself, this is just the tip of the iceberg, has around 217 slum areas, around 26,000 household with around 1,26,000 people. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, if each household, if you take the UN standard fertility level rate, if each household has 2 children, that means you're talking about 50,000 children living in slum areas of Guwahati city. Now, where do these children go? Like Madam is trying her best to do that. But tell me something. Today, Madam does a workshop, in a slum area and mainstream the children to school. Tomorrow, the railways comes and wreck their houses. Do those children go back to school again? So there is this huge gap in the development narrative where there is no convergence. The state is doing something, the railways are thinking about something else. So there has to be the social welfare, the home department, the railways, maybe with the guidance of the Assam State Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, can come together and plan something more sustainable, so that these children, the street children, where they're coming from, they all either runaways or they're living in slum areas. So like Loyaba said, that this is a problem which is a community level issue. And the state has to play a very proactive role to ensure that we're not creating more such children.
Concerted effort, of course, is the need of the hour. We'll take a short break on this note. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond the Bites. We're discussing child abuse. What is the way forward to curb this menace? Now, before the break, we were talking about the street children, the vendors, the street vendors, most of them children selling petty stuff, and how the society chooses to be ignorant to them. Now, on a personal note, has it ever happened to any of our panelists here that your maid doesn't turn up and sends the 10-year-old kid to do the household chore for that day, and you have said no to it? Has it happened? Because it has happened to me several times.
Yes.
But not many people stand for it.
It has happened to me also. The mother sent the child saying that she is not
And
well.
this is very basic. This is something
Yeah.
all of us may have faced at some time or the
Especially
other.
the girl child.
Most people can identify with the situation.
Yeah.
So are we willing to say no to
Yeah.
that as a society? If yes, that is where it begins.
Yes.
The protection of child rights.
We do say no, and we have in fact sent back the child home. I said, no, you go back to your studies. You don't have to come and do the work. When your mother is okay, then you come. And this particular lady who was working, I don't know, she was having one child, girl child after one girl child. She had a huge family of girl childs, and every year she used to become pregnant, and we used to say, what is this? Then I said, no ma'am, this is a way of earning money for them. So I found it very sad that way, but she has come beyond that now. I think people have come forward to help her out.
So it's not always the
girls
need,
are doing
it's,
better now.
It's sometimes about parents actually forcing their kids
Yes.
to go out there and earn. Now, Dr. Chankagoti, the legislations that we have now, the regulations that we have now, are they enough? Are they enough to ensure that child abuse does not take place? That is one. Secondly, are we being able to properly use those regulations, the legislation, to ensure the protection of the child?
No, we are not. We have not been able. So I would just like to give a small example. Like just few days ago, while I was shopping in a mall, I found a couple with two young children on sitting on the pram with another child who was a caretaker of these two children.
And that's very common.
Yes,
That's a very
yes,
common
and very
practice.
common.
That's
And
prevalent.
interestingly,
You go
when
out
I
to any mall,
interacted,
streets,
and
you'll see that
interestingly,
happening.
when I interacted with, I called the lady. I asked her, "Is she your maid?" She said, "No, she is not my maid. I take care of her." The answer she gave, that I take care of her, and I send her to school. Instantly, she said. Then I asked her, which school is she going? She couldn't answer. And I asked this small girl. She said, I asked her, do you go to school? She said, yes, I go to school. In which class are you reading? She couldn't say, because she was taught to speak like this. And this couple, she said, no, don't worry. We are quite aware. I'm a professor in a college, and I'm a teacher. My wife is a teacher in a school. So we are aware of Child Labor Act. So we have brought her because they are very poor. We have given her shelter. We have brought her, and we are taking care of her to look after our children. So this is the mentality of our society.
Is this the beginning of the problem?
Yeah. So this is the
Miguel?
mentality of the society. And he very proudly, the person said that, yes, I'm a professor and my wife is a teacher, and we know about Child Labor Act. We know everything.
Is this a serious problem with our society?
Yes, absolutely. See, when you talk about culture, it's something which is very difficult to undo. And if it's a regressive culture, even more so. What happens is same situations we have faced is when employers, they justify their act by saying that, comes from a very poor family, what to do, and we are taking care of. I was like, if you're so altruistic, why don't you adopt the child? Now, and they'll say no. They'll say, no, we have adopted her. Okay, I said, okay, have you followed the adoption guidelines? Say, they have no idea then. So even adoption, because of, like, the traditional societies had this practice of adoption, where you just you take care of a neighbor's child, or when the neighbor, orphan child. Now that practice led to a lot of abuse, and that's precisely why we have a law called the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act, and this has to be informed to people. Child Labor Act, if you look at the conviction rates, interestingly, now Assam has such a huge number of child laborers, but if you look at the NCRB statistics of 2016, you know how many employers were booked under the law by the police? Only 2 cases. So you can understand that there's a huge gap in understanding the statute. Again, to undo culture, it takes time. I mean, we are getting there. But if, for example, if institutions are active and they respond to them, and that's why I also mentioned the role of the state very importantly, because I tell them that, if a child is orphan, if a child is poor, if a child is helpless, the responsibility is not of that person, not the employer, but the state. And that's precisely what the Juvenile Justice Act says, that if a child is vulnerable, the child should be under the care of the state, and not some altruistic so-called social workers who suddenly adopt children, put them in the households, and in return for work. So
and that is the greatest irony, Miguel, because parents and employers seem to think that just because they've taken a child off the streets and given them work, they're doing a good deed. And this is the very crux of the problem. They're thinking that we're giving you charity so you can work for us or you can help out at home. But what they don't see is that they're denying that child its rights of education, of freedom, of whatever, all those and they're actually putting that child under the 4 acts of abuse, the 4 types of abuse. One is, as you know, is physical physical, the second is emotional, the third is neglect, and the fourth is sexual. So when you are aware of these four types of abuse towards a child, then maybe your eyes will open up. I hope so.
But forget about undoing it. As a culture, have we resigned to this as a norm, accepted norm, and we don't really react to it? It's all fine for us as a society when we see, somebody having a maid who's below the age of 12 or 10, and we are so used to it that it doesn't affect us.
No, that's what I mean. Once you're used to it, it becomes
Yeah.
a culture.
Exactly.
So if you're used to it, you're so okay about it. And in fact, in cases where we go on for rescues, I mean, if someone were here from Childline, there's so much aggression on the part of the employer that you have to face because they believe that is the right thing to do.
Yes.
And that is the problem. I think now, at least in Guwahati city, I would say that there is this awareness. But why is that aggression? Aggression is because the employers know deep within that what they are doing is inherently wrong, and that's why to defend that wrong. If now the state has to play a very proactive role. One, tell that okay, we will look after all the child laborers. Again, see, you rescue one child laborer, but that child laborer sustains a family of 4. What happens to that family?
Absolutely.
Now, in that, the state has to make its stand very clear, and as mandated in the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act of 2015,
See,
that we will take for care of the rehabilitation, effective rehabilitation and restoration of a child laborer.
Is that practically possible?
Yeah, see, I would like to share another story with you. While traveling to Upper Assam in a restaurant where we went to have our lunch in a dhaba, so we found that there were about 4 or 5 child laborers from north of Assam, northern Assam. Then when we interacted with the owner of the restaurant, we said that you have violated the law, and because you are engaging these children as child labor. Then the person said that madam, we are aware, but when we asked them about, we know that they are children, but when we asked them about their age, they said, I am 18 years old, I am 19 years old, because they are in need of money. And that's why they have come all the way from the northern Assam to Upper Assam and to earn money. They are giving livelihood. I mean, they are feeding their family members. So if you, okay, fine, you take out these children from us, again they will go and they will be employed in
So
some
that's
other
because
place.
just as Miguel pointed out, there is no rehabilitation. So the question is the state committed to rehabilitate the child laborers, their families? That is a bigger question today.
Yes, the state is not that well equipped to rehabilitate this amount of, I mean, this number of children, child labor. State is not well equipped.
So what
I'll
could be
tell you
the-
why.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because one, if you look at the budget allocations, now if you look at how the central budget this time 2018-19 was framed, the estimates, if you look, the budget expenditure for children, if you see, it's just like very small, just 3.32% of the whole budget. Now, out of that, if you look at the budget expenditure on estimate on child protection, sorry, it's just 1.48. Now, if you're spending so less money for a population, we have 472 million children in the country, and just like 1.48 on protection for children. I mean, how can we have the institutions? How can we run those programs? It becomes very difficult. So I think the state also needs to relook into budgetary allocations to make it a reality. Secondly, like Loyaba had said, and primary prevention programs. Communities, in the community, school teachers can play a big role, in especially the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan schools, because you see the dropout rate is very high. Why is it high? So it can be stopped in a school. A teacher can play a very effective role in mapping where the child comes from, the needs of the community, connecting the child to the child protection system so that the child can receive support from the protection system, the development system, the survival system, to ensure that the child does not go into child labor. So these are things which I think the state's role is extremely important, and to support the state, civil society, a very active and concerned civil society can act again the change into the system. Like I say, why communities are very important, because I'll go back to this old African proverb which takes a village to raise a child, which basically means that the entire community needs to get together to protect or save their children. So I think,
Absolutely, a very good point made there. Now, one thing's for sure, we are starved for resources, logistics, and a concerted effort has been missing all these years. Very quickly, last words from all our guests. I'll start with Mrs. Reena Day. What role can the school play in ensuring that child abuse is curbed effectively?
Actually, the schools need to be more alert to such things, and like Sunita ma'am had said, they need to know about the rights of the children and the communities that are there. I mean, the committees that are there to help them out if such things happen. The awareness should come to the classroom, to the parents' home. The children should be made aware from the earlier stage itself that what are their rights and what is abuse, what does abuse mean. If these are clear, then we might see some reduction in such crimes.
Mr. Agarwal, last words from
Yes,
you.
I agree. I think first of all, we work on awareness for parents and schools so that our children can be empowered. And that, for me, is so important because we cannot be vigilant over our children 24/7. They are going to be on their own, and they're going to be flying the nest and going to other institutions all over the world. So when you have empowered your child, what you have done is that you have given him or her a set of skills that they can use when the need arises. And I don't think there is anything more powerful than that. So that is where I would focus on. My focus as a counsellor is definitely on empowerment.
Dr. Chankakuti, how is your commission planning to go ahead with its efforts?
Yeah, we have taken various steps, like as I have already mentioned, in regards to child sexual abuse and in regards to child substance abuse, in regards to child labor and right to education. We are taking steps so that each and every child is going to school and no child is dropped out from the schools. So that's why for that we need to collaborate with all the concerning departments, and we are trying to collaborate with the departments like social welfare, Sarva Shiksha education, as well as even judicial system, district administration. So with the collaboration, we are trying to address all the issues related to child rights violation.
Miguel, is there hope at the end of the tunnel? Is there light?
of course, if we have, if we have a strong leadership, one who is very empathetic towards child welfare, I think we can see a direction. Of course, like you see, to reach that light, we need the participation of everyone. Everyone. It be the role of the state, the role of every police officer, every bureaucrat, every teacher, every Gram Panchayat leader, every neta, every youth organization, students, universities. Then communities, families, societies, everyone should come together, and that's only when that you can reach that light. Okay, you can see that light, of course, but that light may just be a coming train, you never know, from the other side. So to actually reach that light and shine in its glory, I think every stakeholder needs to play its role and empower children to have access to their rights. Yeah.
Well, concerted effort again. Concerted effort is the need of the hour, and there's always hope if the stakeholders come together at the very basic level. Thank you so much, all our esteemed panelists, for sharing on your views on this very important topic. Keep watching Beyond the Bites. This is all we have today. Next week we'll come out with another topic. Till then, stay safe, stay well. Thanks for watching.